thank you everyone for being here. The reality is I actually said yes to Bethany House, I think on July 1st. Well, no, it was June 1st, but I started July 1st, and I remember going to John O'Connell about the 4th or 5th of July and saying, I quit. I says, I mentally quit. And then he wanted to know why I was quitting already, but I persevered. So my years as a director of Bethany House, I like to think of them as transition years, from the founding years to the growing years. And I'd like to highlight some of the changes as I remember them. The first one was the facility. As you see there, this is the front of what we call the new Bethany House. It was a 19-bedroom, 3-story convent. It had a finished basement, a laundry room, a storage room, and a rec room that was converted into a playroom. We had lots of space and lots of steps. I can still see the women walking down 3 flights of stairs to do their laundry in the basement. We also had, imagine this, 1 phone line and 2 phones. One was in the office and one was in the basement. And you can imagine who used the one in the basement. I'm sad to say, but that's how it was. But we made it work. The other very helpful thing, I think, to me was, if you look to the right of the picture, is St. Hedwig's School. And Sister Valerie, who gave our welcome, she was the principal of St. Hedwig at that time, and some of the women chose to have their children go to school there. And I always felt safe when they did, because I felt safer when the children were nearby. And also, I think there was less of a chance that their dads could find them in their prior school before moving to Bethany. And so that was a plus for us. The second, what I would call really big growth area, was community involvement. Now, in the first house, Sister Rose Trees was the director alone, and when we moved to Bethany House, she became the development director and researched and wrote the grants. That freed her up to do that. And so we went from very small groups of religious groups, founding board members and community members, and to larger groups of religious, civic, and social groups. Also at this time, high school and college-age students were becoming aware of Bethany House and volunteered on a regular basis. In 1984, and through my years, domestic violence was still a closet term. People did not talk about domestic violence. There were a lot of stereotypes about the women who were abused or claimed to be abused. And so it was really quite important that we were reaching a wider audience. And pictured here is, it was during Domestic Violence Awareness Month that Loyola University hosted the Silent Witness exhibit. It was hosted by Loyola University and sponsored by the Junior League of Toledo. At this time, this was early on, it was a traveling exhibit which actually originated in Minneapolis, Minnesota. But somehow Rose Trees had the wherewithal and got it there for us. Okay, this is cute. Another project was another, not a project, it reflected the community involvement, was the painting and the redecorating of Bethany House. There was a woman in the community that had several resources, and she once won the services of an interior decorator. And she didn't need those services herself, so she offered them to Bethany House. And I will never forget when the 2 of them came to the house. They were dressed like in black cocktail dresses, that they were going on the greatest cruise you ever thought of. And I went, oh my goodness. And at that time, Bethany House had beautiful dark wood. It was really a wonderful facility. And the walls were beige. And I remember one of the first things the interior decorator says was, oh no, the walls. She says, that's the worst color for women's complexions. And so, no, honest, she did. Why do I remember that? But anyway, and so all the hallways, the stairway going up was all a light pink, and it was really quite attractive. But pictured here is, she had a Sweet Dreams project, and literally the 19 bedrooms were all redone with window hangings and repainted. They made it so pleasant for the women and children. And you know, when they were in the situation they were in, they went to the shelter at the YWCA, and then they came to Bethany House. And the whole house just changed. It was beautiful. They did the dining room, they did the, there's another picture, and I think the one of the, oh yeah. If you look to the right, that was a renovation of the upstairs living room. You can see the window hangings, and it was just beautiful. The dining room, living room, the playroom downstairs. To your left, okay, that was community involvement. And of course, the Sisters of St. Francis were involved and had to get in on the act. And they were involved in various projects. Pictured here is Mom's Night Out and the sister babysitters. The moms enjoyed a few hours of free time, just away from their children. And then the good sisters would come in and help with the children. And two of those sisters are here today. Maybe they'll have a story to share about that. And but the thing about that, what I really remember too is when they were leaving, whoever had a good running car would do the driving. And I remember standing by the door, and I gave them each $5, and they didn't expect it. I did not know when we said they were going to have Mom's Night Out if they even had money, you know, to buy something for Mom's Night Out. But I distinctly remember how grateful they were and how surprised too. Okay. And then, oh yes, this is a rare picture of Sister Rose Trees relaxing. Yeah. And this was at one of the parks, but it was another way that we had community involvement was to keep in touch with the former residents. And so in the early years, we would have a reunion. It was usually very well attended, and the women and children had lived with each other, so it was really, really nice for them to come back and see each other again and share memories. And so that was it. Okay, now this picture, the third area of the changes was with the staff. We went from having Sister Rose Trees there alone, and then when we moved to the new house, there was a director, which was myself, and we also needed night managers because we didn't want the women to be in that enormous house and be unsupervised, especially for an emergency or something. So we grew from a full-time director, we had a case manager, and Kathy is the woman in the white blouse. She was the first case manager, and then she became the director of Bethany House. And then I'm in the middle there, and the lady with the red jacket is Sherry Reed. She was the first part-time volunteer coordinator. She trained, and well, you'll see in another picture, she trained and recruited volunteers and did a very good job and made sure we maintained them as long as we could. But the supportive services included a women's counselor. Sister Rachel is here today. She was one of the first ones, her and she was also with the children's counselor. We had a children's activities coordinator, and night managers, a bookkeeper, and of course, dear Victor is here today. Victor was our maintenance man, and he would come in, and one day, I'll never forget, he came in one day and he said, Sister Faith, I could build you a house. I went, Victor, I don't need a house, but get the truck out of the toilet upstairs. it was just, and what was so funny is that, this is real, when you come to the house, the little ones that weren't in school, they just like to run and follow him and just be there. And I think sometimes Victor gave him something to hold while he was working. And so that was really, Victor knew the sisters who lived there before, and he knew the house inside and out. If you remember, Victor, just, you know, when inspections came and we had to do things to be in what do you call that, in compliance with, yes, that was a different thing. And talking about compliance, talking about compliance, we are standing on the newly built ramp, and that was compliant with the ADA. The woman in black and white, her name was Donna Ferretto, and she was a photojournalist, and I think she engineered that picture, because it's a pretty nice picture of us, actually. And we were standing at the end of the ramp. That was in the backyard, and you can see the St. Hedwig School was there, and we had a big fenced-in backyard. And because of grants, we were really able to hire additional staff, which was very helpful. The last section that I think we grew in was finances. The 90s were quite favorably financially, if I remember those years. And also Sister Rose Tree spent her time researching and writing grants. One example was the UPS Foundation grant, and Bethany House was awarded $100,000. Really, that was enormous. And what I remember most about that day is Sister Rose Treese was asked to, Sister Rose Treese was asked to attend with the other applicants because the grant, when it was going to be announced. And this was a regional grant. It was from Ohio, Michigan, and Indiana. And sometimes they break down a grant, you know. So she was there. I stayed home to be at the house. And I remember when she came home, she opened the side door, she stood by the steps, and she was like breathing really heavy, probably like I am now. And she was kind of out of breath, and I went, oh, something's wrong with her. And then she told me what happened. That was enormous to receive that amount of money. And we had fundraisers before that were bake sales, and they were garage sales. I remember having lots of, and this was $100,000 with no reporting requirements. All we had to do was follow what was specified in the grants, and the money was ours. And we used that, I remember, for a new bigger car and for children's supplies. For example, cribs had to follow certain requirements. And when you get donations, sometimes we always weren't that compliant with what we needed to do. But that was enormous. And the next thing, I shouldn't talk about this so much, but the next thing was she had to call Franciscan Services Corporation because the chief financial officer, you know, was going to take care of it, and, you know, not take care of it, but we had to alert him to what happened. And so I remember walking down LaGrange the next Monday, because this was on a Friday, with that check in my pocket. And I went to the bank. It was a small neighborhood bank, and two men were there, one behind the desk, and he looked at me, then another one came and pulled out the check for me. And that was just so, I mean, that was enormous to have that amount of money. And another thing we were pretty proud of was we were recognized by the Jamie Farr Kroger Classic Women's Golf Tournament. And from a tournament like that, I think there were 2 years that we received about $30,000. You know, and there were different shelters too that were shared. But the thing about the tournament was that there was a whole new audience there. The publicity, that was, you know, a great amount of new awareness for us. And this was our fundraising committee, and the group here are board members, they're volunteers, there's a representative from Franciscan Services Corporation. She was there, and then and I must say, the woman, I just have to tell you this, the woman in the white jacket, sitting on that side, the white jacket and black skirt, that woman, well, Jenny Orvis, I don't know if any of you remember her, she was going through dialysis. She was very sick. She was on dialysis a couple times a week and engineered these fundraisers for us. it was just incredible. I don't think anyone could say no to her.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went from bake sales and garage sales to a fashion show at the Andersons complex. And then we had garden parties and Santa's pizza lunch at the Franciscan Life Center. And thank you so much. And if we have time, I just hope to hear your stories. But this is what I remember, and I wanted to share as I saw them, my role at Bethany House at that time, the transitions and the growth that took place. Thank you. Okay.